There's this YouTube channel that I'm a huge fan of. Have you heard of it? It's called Fred.
Hey, it's Fred!
But I'm almost as big of a fan of Aussie YouTuber Gary Orsum, the Tommy Wiseau of political commentators, as everything he says is unintentionally hilarious, and he did a video on little old me. Amazing. It was like that Mr. Situation roast if Mr. Situation was an Aussie boomer with dementia.
Numerous people who've lived through the fires in New South Wales and Queensland over the last couple of days, Premier, have said something's changed.
Would that be the Labor and Greens' efforts to thwart preventative controlled winter burning that's been widely reported, even by the Volunteer Firefighters Association?
Get a load of that Pavlovian response to the Greens, instantly conflated with Labor.
Richard D. Cafe Latte, leader of Labor and the Greens.
Allow me to explain the Murdoch talking point you were attempting to parrot, Gaz. News Corp has been blaming the Greens for a supposed banning of fuel burning, which put aside the fact that we're only 43 seconds in and I'm already starting to question your cognitive capacity as you clearly have troubles reading your own script. I'll bite. Widely reported. Show me a single source that blames the Labor Party, Gaz. In fact, show me a single source where the RFS is blaming Labor and the Greens. Because until those are provided, allow me to offer you something a little more substantive than nothing, Gazza. These are the government's own figures. The New South Wales Liberals cut $121 million from National Parks and Wildlife Services. As such, hazard reduction burning has halved since Labor left office in New South Wales. So there are two parties responsible for the sharp decline in fuel reduction burning in New South Wales, Gaz, and those are the exact two opposite parties that you mentioned. It is my sincere wish that one day a clown forces your mouth wide open and does a nice, long, diuretic shit straight in your gob, Gaz, to poetically symbolise that it is in fact you who's guilty of your favourite catchphrase.
Seriously, dude, you're talking utter shit.
Do you agree with the Weather Bureau that climate change is creating the conditions that are causing these severe bushfires?
And would that be the same Weather Bureau that can barely predict the weather accurately more than 3 days in advance? Is that who you mean?
He's done it! Let it be written down in the annals of history. Gary Orsum, the man who has single-handedly brought down the overwhelming scientific consensus on anthropogenic climate change by bringing up the most boomer point that a Year 5 geography class debunks: the difference between weather and climate. Now you watch, he's got to look up the difference, pretend he knew all along, even though it's very clear from his comments he doesn't, and say,
if they are different, Geordies, why would the Weather Bureau know anything about the climate, numbnuts?
Gary Orsum, telling it like it is, even though he's got no idea what it is. His next point I love as much as Gary's. I'm assuming mail order Cambodian wife loves him, i.e. not at all, as have you ever heard anyone display how insecure they are about their own intelligence as succinctly as, do you think visiting Wet and Wild contributed to this kid having wet board short?
Oh, I don't think politicising this issue would lead to dry pants.
His obvious use of sarcasm isn't lost on me at all.
Clearly, the close relative of sarcasm, irony, is also lost on Gary as, that was not a sarcastic comment, Gaz. That's what's known as an analogy. Allow me to give you an example of a sarcastic comment. You ready? I am certain that was a rare lapse in judgment of your otherwise sharp as a tack mind when about 40 seconds later you dub, but replace something trivial with the biggest threat humanity's ever faced and she won't even acknowledge its existence. Well, in the words of the greatest comedian of all time,
Gary Orsum, you're a idiot, mate.
He dubs his own name into a comment that was sarcastic. Not only does he not get sarcasm, he can't register sarcasm. This is not a joke. He has the intelligence of a Neanderthal. I'm not sure if you can qualify as a comedian, Gaz. Is it comedy if you see a chimp drinking its own piss? I mean, it's hilarious. But can you call the chimp a comedian? Chief Greg Mullins, along with 22 other emergency chiefs, sent letters informing them about the dangers of climate change era fires.
Because if anyone understands the 3 billion plus years of climate variances on planet Earth, it's a fire chief and 22 of his buddies.
No, not just them, G-Banger. All of these. All those links are in the description, not that it matters to Gaz, because you could show him any scientific bodies on Earth and his response would be,
what would every university in Australia know? What would NASA know? What would 928 out of 928 peer-reviewed articles by climate scientists know? They're not me. They're not an all-seeing, all-knowing iTunes visualizer you would have seen in a Malaysian nightclub when Pitbull was big.
You dull-eyed sack of shit. What have you done with your worthless fucking mouth breather life? Nothing. Nothing.
All right, well, what about you? What have you done, you barely post-pubescent hypocrite, other than swallow every fucking word the mainstream media throw at you?
This coming from someone who frequently posts Sky News clips and likes them. But I'll answer your question. I'll tell you what I've done. I've garnered the confidence to show my face on camera, something that has clearly eluded you. So I may be post-pubescent, but you're postmenopausal. So if I were you, I'd take the view that the politicians you like have on burkas and
Show your face, you timid, pathetic bitch.
there's only two reasons for why you wouldn't. One, you're horrified by your own appearance. Two, you're scared that people will identify you on the street and make fun of you. Either way, hilarious.
The reason I don't show my face is because I was disfigured at an Antifa rally, you little shit.
These fires have led to human deaths.
Because no one ever died in a fire before climate hysteria.
He seems nice. What makes these fires different, you probably twice divorced reject, is that the fires you're referring to weren't burning in rainforests. The fires you're referring to also started in bushfire season. These did not. These very nearly smashed the previous record before we even entered peak bushfire season, and this was back when Gary released this video, November 30. These are the fires now. We'll let that pass because he definitely smashes it out of the park with this sixer.
Because no koalas ever died in a fire before climate hysteria. And notice how none of these guys ever give a shit about the millions of cockroaches that were burnt.
Speaks for itself.
And what's this? 2 sixes in a row. Potentially millions of hectares of native habitat being permanently lost.
Permanently lost, you say? Oh, so the forests don't even grow back now. Seriously, dude, you're talking utter shit.
Why are the dumbest people always the most confident? Gaz, if a tree is turned to ash, it doesn't grow back. And if there's no trees, the topsoil gets displaced. Australia's layer of topsoil is extremely thin because we didn't go through an ice age. So guys, don't worry, I'm not
Talking utter shit.
You just have shit for brains. What else could you possibly conclude when he pauses on an article with the words Australia's extinction crisis in the article and proceeds to ask,
What extinction crisis, Geordies? Where?
I didn't edit that. That's the actual video. What is he, the kid in the Gary Larson cartoon?
How many confirmed extinctions were there last year, Geordies? You don't actually know, do you? It was 2, mate. 2.
Oh no, take cover. General Gaz just dropped a fact bomb. Citation sorely needed, as it was the only fact in a 10-minute video dropped on completely the wrong target, as I'm guessing it has something to do with the fact that he doesn't understand what the word crisis means.
And when you mix that in with his inability to understand basic literary techniques, simple points, the obvious trouble he has with reading out his own words, as well as his clear aversion to reading other people's words, Gary, before you continue making commentary videos, there's a number I really want you to call.
1300650506.
The Reading Writing Hotline. If you contact it, maybe you won't publicly embarrass yourself in the future by reading out paragraphs that seriously undermine your point and being stupid enough to think they don't if you arbitrarily emphasize certain words.
Examples of ecological communities are currently at risk of extinction, a number that is increasing, but which is also likely to be an underestimate of how many are truly vulnerable. You know, 1 minute we're in this extinction event, yet it's always risk of extinction. It's like you guys live in the today of next month.
And what's incredible is there are people who view this probable alcoholic who is barely literate as some sort of Noam Chomsky figure. A man who accuses me of being both a
Communist
and an
eco-fascist
in the same video. And if you need any more confirmation of this man's unparalleled genius at sniffing out the bullshit, take a look at his views on the Liberal Party's delivery of the internet. And for what? So utter filth like arsonist McCormick and Koala Killer here get invited to balls where they can wear ugly suits?
No, mate. It's so that commie pinko dickheads like you can have an internet connection.
What did I tell you? Tommy Wiseau of political commentators.
So do yourself a favour, you mainstream media soy boys, like this video, and when you're done with that, get yourself a feed of Gaz for the truth. None of this alt-left cuck shit.
Please share and comment below. Comment.